Do you want insight into how I keep up with everything happening in the news? Stick around until the end of this video for an important offer from Ground News. We are lucky in this country in a number of different ways. One way that I believe we are lucky is that we have a whole bunch of super talented, very smart communicators in the Democratic Party. AOC is one of them. A lot of people get sucked into, they get distracted by right-wing talking points that are based in racism and misogyny and just hatred. And they're like, I don't like her voice, I don't like this. All of that is nonsense. If you address what AOC says on its substance, not getting swept away by distractions that are born out of hatred and bigotry, you do yourself well, because she is brilliant. And she was on this morning with Morning Joe talking about yesterday's hate rally, as she puts it, accurately dubs it, at Madison Square Garden in New York City. And she addresses specifically that comedian, dipshit, Tony Hinchcliffe, but also really lays out what the motivation for this rally is. And that's what I want to talk about. I'm going to play this clip, and then we're going to talk about what the strategy was, likely. We don't know, because we're not a fly on the wall inside of a Trump campaign world. But I want to talk about what the hell was the point of this rally when he's going to lose New York in grand fashion. He didn't try to broaden the base. He did not try to widen the net of voters for his campaign. All he did was appeal to the worst of the worst among us. Watch Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on with Morning Joe talking about this very thing.
Last night, right here in New York City, your hometown, Donald Trump held a packed rally at Madison Square Garden, and a number of speakers used downright racist and offensive language, no more so than the so-called comedian who said that Puerto Rico was an island of garbage. Can you just give us your reaction to what you heard last night, just hours and hours of frankly, hate, and what, frankly, how it could electrify this electorate?
Well, there's a couple of things. As you mentioned, this was a hate rally. This was not just a presidential rally. This was also not just a campaign rally. I think it's very important for people to understand that these are mini January 6 rallies. These are mini Stop the Steal rallies. These are rallies to prime an electorate into rejecting the results of an election if it doesn't go the way that they want. Because Donald Trump and that entire cadre of people up on that stage, Stephen Miller, etc., do not respect the law of the United States of America. And they either want to win this election or they are using rhetoric of taking it by force. That is what they mean, and that's what they're doing when they are inciting violence and hatred against Latinos, against Black Americans, against Americans who don't have children, against, you have J.D. Vance literally talking about watering down people's right to vote, depending on if they can viably carry a child or not. We have to understand how unhinged this campaign has gotten, and the only reason that the rhetoric has gotten this far is precisely because they are trying to prime the kind of froth that led up to the January 6th attack on the Capitol. And so it's very important that we connect those dots. And right now the campaign is scrambling, and they're trying to blame this rhetoric on a so-called comedian. This is not a comedian. This is the Trump campaign. They invited this rhetoric on their stage for a reason. It was a chorus of speakers on that campaign for a reason. It was vetted, and they knew exactly who was going to say what before they went on. And so the only backtracking that they're doing right now is just because tens of thousands of Puerto Ricans happen to live in Philadelphia, Florida, Michigan, Wisconsin, and also the several swing seats in the House of Representatives that run through the state of New York. And they're just realizing that they might have made a big error by saying out loud what they're thinking.
She's right. If Donald Trump was trying to broaden the voter base, it would have been about policy. It would have been about how he plans to make the lives of Americans better. Instead, it was about bigotry and isolation and fear and to be able to point to, once the election does actually come, be able to point to, look, we filled Madison Square Garden. There's no way we could have lost. This is the MO. This is the strategy as far as I'm concerned. It's what I've been talking about for months now. That is, he's already saying it's going to be rigged, just like he did in 2020. Hell, he said it was rigged in 2016 and he won. What he's trying to do is set up, as she articulately said, these are mini January 6th rallies. These are mini Stop the Steal rallies. These are rallies to prime an electorate into rejecting the results of an election. She said if, but when it doesn't go their way. That's what this is about. It's to give Donald Trump the justification for, look, all these rallies. That's why he lies about 25,000 people were circling the McDonald's when I was working there. What? And by the way, he amended it to 29,000 at a subsequent event. This is why he says 100,000 people showed up for him in New Jersey, in wherever he was. That's why every crowd size is doubled or tripled or quadrupled, whatever the actual number was, because he wants to be able to justify the violence that's going to come at his behest, at his incitement, at his direction, that he will try to foment violence following the election. And by the way, she's also right. They are trying to prime the kind of attack that led up to January 6th at the Capitol, and that this language from this dipshit comedian was vetted by the campaign. They knew what he was going to say. When you're running for this kind of an election, you don't take anything at chance. You're not just like, we trust him. He's going to be fine. They want to know everything that's said. They want to know how long the set's going to be. AOC is right. And I hope that you have woken up to the realities and the dangers that face us in this election, following the election. We're already seeing violence at polling stations when people are asked to take off their campaign gear that you're not legally allowed to by law wear in a polling place in many municipalities all across the country. We're already seeing violence there in voting booths or in polling locations. Do you think it's not going to continue when Donald Trump is announced the loser of this election? That he's promised, we're going to win because look at all this support. I would win California if only Jesus were counting the votes. Anyway, I'd love to know what you think about this. Let's talk about it in the comments. That'll help YouTube to share this content with new prospective viewers. And that is always a fantastic time. Maybe not for you, but it's a good time for me. You can also leave me a voicemail, 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. You want to support the work, you can become a channel member, click the join button. You can go to patreon.com/idoubtitpodcast, or you can check out an offer from Ground News, which is more important. A company like this and an outfit like this is more important right now than at any time in our country's history. And you should hear what they have to say and what they offer. If Trump is reelected, he has made it clear in this Truth Social post that he is intent upon revenge against anyone who questions him. It's one of the many recent examples of his dangerous authoritarian mindset and his plans for a future where public dissent is not met with debate, but with prison time. As you might guess, few, if any, right-wing outlets are covering news items like this. And if they are, it's someone like belligerent Ben Shapiro boosting for dropout Doug Burgum in North Dakota. Meanwhile, an independent outlet like Mother Jones is calling it what it is: voter suppression as designed by Project 2025. To say nothing of the spectrum of takes on social media platforms like Trump's, they all serve someone's agenda. Where is the best place to get a clear view of the various angles on a story and cut through the noise of social media? Ground News. It's an app and website that gathers the world's news in one place and exposes the bias of every outlet. With Ground News, you can easily compare coverage across the political spectrum to achieve a more coherent understanding of a particular issue. Democracy cannot survive on blind loyalty and echo chambers. It requires independent thought and civil discourse. That is why Ground News is here and what it's all about. Use Ground News to keep informed about the Middle East or to find out more about labor strikes in your area. All kinds of things are covered. Expand your information base. Head to ground.news/Dollemore or just scan my QR code below to score 40% off the very same unlimited access Vantage plan that I use for this show. By signing up, you'll be supporting not one, but two independent platforms working to make media more transparent. Ground News and Dollemore, unlimit your knowledge with Ground News.